In this video, I thought I'd talk about Nietzsche's atheism and just explain it really. As we know, Nietzsche was a very intelligent philosopher, a very smart person. And I don't think it's as black and white as we know by the masses. He's widely regarded as an atheist. But I think it's a lot more complex and a lot more context behind it. As I don't think it's as black and white as to say Nietzsche's just an atheist or nihilist. Because I believe Nietzsche was a spiritual atheist and used atheism as a tool. It was his tool. It was something he used and saw as necessary for time being. And, in this video, I'm going to get into that and break it down and sort of explain Nietzsche's atheism, really. So, yeah. Now, we must understand that Nietzsche was anti-Christianity. He didn't like as what he called Judeo-Christianity, as it was, it was under slave morality. And as we know, Nietzsche, you have slave morality and you have master morality. And Nietzsche is all about the master morality, as we know, in Nietzschean philosophy. And Judeo-Christianity, formed by Paul, as Nietzsche isn't a big fan of Paul and believed, he sort of twisted Christ's message, Jesus' message a bit, and sort of formed what we see today as Judeo-Christianity. And, this religion, this monotheistic religion from the Middle East is life-denying. This monotheistic religion from the Middle East is life-denying, anti-nature, and is all about, they live in the here and now, in the physical realm, but they're all for, waiting to die to achieve a spiritual heaven, a spiritual realm that they cannot reach. It's an unreachable God. It's an unreachable realm, because you're in the physical world now, in the material world now, but you're doing nothing, as Nietzsche saw it, you're doing nothing for this world now. You're not conquering the physical realm. You're not conquering and overcoming yourself. Your eternal struggle is really for them waiting to just, I'm going to pray to God, do nothing for this world, or do nothing for myself in this world, and then go to reach, heaven. And as Nietzsche saw it, what have you done to reach, a spiritual realm after you die? You haven't achieved nothing in this physical realm. You haven't contributed to nothing. You have denied life and nature, which we are bounded by. And we have said no, and, you say no to nature, deny life, and weak, and a God that is for the slaves, and a pessimistic God, or a God that promotes the pessimistic morality, and which is bounded by good and evil, which Nietzsche wants a race that is beyond, or civilization that is beyond good and evil, beyond the moral concept, beyond the slaves, and create your own master and be the master of yourself, which is why he had a big problem with Christianity. Now, you have two types of God, and religiosity, consequently, and moralities, and you have the slave and the master. The Judeo-Christian God was for the slaves and the weak, and the pessimist, and the life deniers, whereas the Nietzschean God is very much like the Greek gods, but not so much in a spiritual sense, more in the human, like a God-man. So even like what Jesus was to an extent, a God-man. And Nietzsche, as he calls himself, the last prophet of Dionysus. And, just to sort of finish up on this topic, I'm only using this as a way to sort of explain why he is nihilistic in nature, or a spiritual atheist, if you must. Because, Nietzsche wants a God-man, which is the master of himself, and the master morality, the aristocrats. This is Nietzsche's concept, really, not bounded by, the morality and the morals, beyond good and evil. They are beyond good and evil. What they do, any actions, doesn't matter, for they are the masters, for they are the gods amongst men. They are the God-man. They seek the divine within, with the eternal struggle that life possesses, and to overcome yourself, you have one has earned such I'm not sure how to say, like, authority over himself and the world, the lords of the earth, as Nietzsche called them, and a race that is yet to be born. And he used atheism really as a way to bridge that gap and pave the way for getting rid of Christianity and forming that path across the bridge to form the advent of the coming master race, in a spiritual concept to form the Übermensch. And Judeo-Christianity, to Nietzsche, calls nihilism, as it denies life, denies nature, and we can't not live without nature. And I do recommend reading Abir Taha book called Nietzsche's Coming God, and it explains Nietzsche's coming God and why he was an atheist, or a spiritual atheist, and his problems with Christianity, and why he sort of used it as a tool, why it was a mere tool for him, nihilism, to get rid of Christianity and pave that way for the coming advent of the Superman, or the Übermensch, and his concept of the Superman and what it takes, and the key differences and the just polar opposite of Christianity. But we must remember that he's not an atheist, as people are so quick to say. It was a mere tool for him, a spiritual atheist. Very exoteric in nature, Nietzsche. So a lot of his works and writings take a lot of thought. You got to think about what he's saying and come to a conclusion, because Nietzsche's not as simple, and we know he's very smart. The guy was a genius, and he saw these things a million miles away. And he saw it with Paul, how he possibly, corrupted the message and formed this Judeo-Christian concept. And Nietzsche's God is like everything the Christian God isn't, the monotheistic God, Yahweh. And it's, an egotistical masters, lords of the earth, who can even make God bend the knee, or get rid of God and become the new God, but gods of the earth, the real man who is got the divine within, or the divine morality, which is beyond good and evil. He does as he pleases. He has earned that spot. So it's a very interesting and key concept, because Nietzsche can be hard to understand, but we must understand, most importantly, that Nietzsche's atheism he used as a way to stop Christianity, or a way to sort of move on, as but temporarily, for the coming Übermensch. And Nietzsche is pro-aristocrat, and he wants to preserve the aristocratic soul. And these supreme aristocrats, who are superior, in the spiritual sense, we must remember. And Nietzsche was, a couple of times he calls himself a pagan, and the last prophet of Dionysus, as we know. And so Nietzsche's gods be more Greek-like, and he admired the Romans and the Greeks, saw them as like the standard, the masters, if you must, and they didn't sort of understand the difference between divine beauty and the ugliness of humans. And so they were sort of the god men amongst each other, the god amongst men. Same for the Romans, but the Greeks were just earlier on. But that was but this is really Nietzsche's nihilism explained. Really, to sum it up, it's as I've said, it's a mere tool. Nietzsche was a spiritual atheist, and Christianity, Judeo-Christianity for that matter, sort of caused this nihilism spiritually for the men, and sort of declined the aristocratic souls, which Nietzsche longed for, which Nietzsche wanted, which he saw fit for purpose for the master race that's yet to be born in the spiritual sense. So that's really Nietzsche's, that's really the best way to link up, for me to link up, the atheism, Christianity, the Übermensch, and the atheism explained, just summing up each topic and linking to why the atheism with Nietzsche, why he was a spiritual atheist, and why he used nihilism and he came across very nihilistic. Now, obviously, most people call him an atheist because of his famous quote, right? God is dead, we have killed him. And is that metaphorical? Is that in a spiritual sense? Is that literal? And I believe it's all in abundance. Now, we have killed him. Nietzsche is talking about the Christian God, to my belief, the monotheistic God. He is saying we have killed him. We have gone beyond his morality, or we're not within that good and evil, that culture and that religion that was the forefront of the world in Europe. People slowly become more nihilistic in nature and spirituality. As we must remember that Christianity is life-denying, and this is his biggest problem with it. And atheism, ultimately, this is why he was as well, wasn't against nature or wasn't for nature, but it didn't bend the knee to the slave morality. It was more of a master morality concept in terms of I do what I want, I am myself. But Nietzsche is very much self-overcoming, the eternal struggle and overcoming yourself. It's about the journey, not the destination. The journey to the Superman is what forms the Superman, not being there. The journey and the adversity is what forms the man and the master of himself. And this is Nietzsche's atheism summed up. So it's not really very black and white atheism, if that makes sense. Not really, but it's more nihilistic in terms of spiritual sense, to sort of deny God, reject God. We have killed him. You must accept that, and now we must go on his path. Nihilism really, but sort of a pagan aristocratic soul. And because the pagans were beyond good and evil, they became masters of themselves and honoured the gods. And to then prepare and to sort of work your way towards the Superman, if that makes sense. So yeah, Nietzsche really used nihilism. He used it. It was a tool. Like, he just used it. He just saw that as the best way. Sort of move on and also pave the way for the next. Out with the old, in with the new concept type of thing. If you understand what I'm trying to say, really. And yeah, that's really... That's it summed up, really. That's sort of the best way I can sort of just quickly sum up and explain his nihilism and why he was nihilistic and what caused him to be, or the problems he saw with Christianity, and linking it to the Superman, why that should be the path to the Superman. And so yeah, I do recommend reading Nietzsche's Coming God and The Antichrist, and I would also say Thus Spoke Zarathustra and Twilight of the Idols, I think, just to sort of understand his nihilistic concept. I mean, all of Nietzsche's books, but to sort of start off with ones that, you can sort of get a grasp of an early concept of Nietzsche's genuine atheistic philosophy, or, if you like, spirituality. So we must remember that Nietzsche is more pagan than atheistic. He's only atheistic in spirit or spirituality, to sort of just finish off Christianity, or to just sort of prepare for his coming God. And he called himself the last prophet of Dionysus, and he liked the pagan concept of the gods and the aristocratic soul of the pagans, and they were merely beyond good and evil. They weren't bounded by the morality. They were pro-nature. Nature was the pagans' temple, and Nietzsche's coming God and coming Superman are pagan in nature. He sees it as a pagan. He sees it in a pagan form, but in a God-man sense, in more of a materialistic and physical sense, not in the spiritual gods. The God's spirit dwells upon us. It's more like the God-men, the pagan gods, are there in their physical form on earth, ruling the earth, lords of the earth, who conquered the Judeo-Christianity and used nihilism as a way to give birth and go through that struggle of forming the Superman high in the aristocratic souls. So yeah, Nietzsche's a pagan, in my opinion, or views himself more as a pagan and admires paganism, but uses atheism as a tool to pave that way and use it as a bridge to cross from Christianity to the birth of the Superman, really. That's ultimately the way to sum it up for me, and that's Nietzsche's nihilism explained pretty much.